Hello, welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man. We are playing Traverse Death's Shadow, and this time we're running up against Nykthos Wave, or Utopia Sprawl, sort of big green deck, I guess. So, this is our opening hand. This looks pretty good. We've got Death's Shadow, we've got Tarmogoyf, Street Wraith, and a Fatal Push, along with a bunch of fetch lands. So we can get a couple of threats out here pretty swiftly. That looks pretty good to us. Obviously our hand not the best for disrupting our opponent, but obviously a good amount of threats, so I don't think this is worthy of a mulligan. So just going to run out of fetch here. No real need to crack this immediately, might as well see what our opponent's doing. But that's a bop. So he's going to crack here. Just push the bop, obviously limit our opponent's ability to produce mana, and obviously sets up nicely for our a turn 2 Tarmogoyf. Going to cycle a Street Wraith here as well, drawing into a second Street Wraith, trying to Thoughtseize so we can see what our opponent is doing here. I mean, we could have played Tarmogoyf instead, but here we can actually reduce our life low enough that Death's Shadow will live, and we might as well get a sort of look into what our opponent is doing. So opponent's only got one other land in hand: Burntree Emissary, Eternal Witness, Garrett Wildspeaker, and Genesis Wave. Kind of a tough call. Eternal Witness is probably the card that's most useful. Obviously, because whatever we make our opponent discard, then they can get that back with the Eternal Witness. But as our opponent doesn't have a third land, I decide I'd rather get rid of the blocker. And also, Burning Tree Emissary is good for well, I mean, it gives him a play next turn essentially. So I suppose that's the main thing I was trying to avoid. So I think I'd take the Emissary. There's probably an argument for taking the Eternal Witness instead, but giving our opponent no play for next turn seemed pretty good. So that's what we take. We can play a fetch land here, crack it, drop our Death Shadow, then we've still got a Street Wraith as well, to increase the Death Shadow even more. As I say, our opponent's unlikely to have anything, so we can hit pretty hard here. So I'm going to crack my land. We'll get a Watery Grave, go down to 5, cycle the Street Wraith, hit for 8, we'll run down to 12. And now we've got 4 types of card in our graveyard, so Delirium is active, and we can use this Traverse to find another Death Shadow, and now we've got 2 8/8s on the board. Opponent can potentially cast an Eternal Witness next turn, but it doesn't do a great deal. Might be able to let him live another turn. But actually, we got 8, so we can take 3 from this Verdant Catacombs, and that'll wrap things up. So yeah, we've got this nicely wrapped up here. I was going to get back the Emissary, but it's all a little bit too late. We'll get to Inquisition the Emissary back out of his hand anyway, but we can attack for 11 here with both our Death Shadows. And that finishes up game 1. So nice and swift, quick win for us. Nice aggressive hand with plenty of ways to lose life and find Death Shadow. So that works out pretty nicely for us. Okay, so here we are with the sideboard. So we are playing against Nykthos Genesis Wave. So cards do we want? What cards do we not want? Kind of a tough call. Fatal Push is still good here against their smaller mana creatures. Stubborn's possibly not his best. I mean, potentially it can counter a wave, but a lot of their main cards are creatures, so I think probably want to take out the Stubborn Denials probably in their entirety. I don't think that's the best way to try and tackle their deck. Battle Rage is kind of good. It gives us an opportunity to finish off the game, and we might be able to finish off the game through one of their bigger creatures, like a Primeval Titan or a Hornet Queen or what have you. So I don't dislike that. Kozilek's Return is probably decent as a way of clearing out their guys, because we've seen Eternal Witness, Burning Tree Emissary, Birds of Paradise. I imagine there's possibly Landwire Elves and things like that. So that seems like a good bring in. Maelstrom Pulse is probably pretty useful. They've got Planeswalkers like Garruk, and that's a good way to kill them. Linear the Last Hope's pretty decent as well as a way of picking off Mana Dorks and Eternal Witness, etc. So probably want to be bringing that in as well. Go for the Throat can kill their bigger creatures, so might want to be considering that also. Snapcaster has potential, but I don't think it's necessarily the card we want to be playing. And we maybe don't need all our Inquisitions actually in terms of the main deck, because a lot of their cards are quite expensive. They still do have cheap creatures and cards, so it's not likely to whiff that often, but it will from time to time, so maybe we could trim down on the Inquisitions as well. So yeah, I think we're probably looking at bringing in slightly more removal, ways to kill Planeswalkers. Might even want to consider Fulminator Mage, just as a way of killing Nykthos, but I don't know, I'm not entirely sold on that. I'm not sure we'll necessarily get maximum value out of that. And Liliana maybe a bit slow, I don't know. Liliana the Veil, I mean obviously it can take out some of their bigger cards, so I'm not sure about Liliana in this matchup. I think she's probably not at her complete best in this matchup, so that may be a card we want to be cutting. And yeah, in terms of cards we want to bring in, I think we want removal for their sort of small mana dorks to help prevent the ramp. Answers for Planeswalkers like Garruk is kind of useful, so we'll maybe look at Maelstrom Pulse there. And then we might want to bring in Go Through the Throat just as an answer to some of the bigger creatures they may want to cast. Kozilek's Return also good at killing off Hornet Queen as well, and its tokens, so that's going to be useful. So I definitely want Kozilek's Return in. So that's a sort of vague idea of how we want to sideboard. I think we're definitely taking out the Stubborn Denials, maybe 1 or 2 copies of Inquisition, and we could potentially slim down on Team of Battle Rage, but it could be useful. Maybe slim down on the Lilianas, because they're possibly just a bit too slow. But let's have a look into game 2. Okay, here we are, game 2. This hand is a bit sketchy, to be honest. I never really like keeping any hand that doesn't have a Death Shadow or a Tarmogoyf in it, or at least some sort of idea about getting to them. I mean, Traverse potentially finds it, but we don't. All we have is a bunch of sorceries and an instant spell, so we still can't get Delirium with this hand. So that'll be a bit of a way off. So I think we probably mulligan this hand. I think it's fine in terms of it's got plenty of disruption, but it's going to be too slow, I think, in terms of finding threats. This hand's good in terms of threats. Unfortunately, it's only got a Breeding Pool in it, and no way of drawing any cards, so I think this is too risky to keep, unfortunately. So it looks like we might be going down to 5 here. This is our 5-card hand. We had Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, and Bauble. So I guess we could keep this and hope that we draw something decent off Bauble. I can't quite remember. I don't really want to multi-force, so I suppose we keep this. Collective Brutality off the top. Oh, actually, that's a good card to bring in. I didn't speak about in the sideboarding. Yeah, because obviously Collective Brutality can kill off a Mana Dork and take a Genesis Wave or something of the like out of the opponent's hand. So that's kind of a nice one. But here we definitely want to be bottoming that and looking for something else. Penalties off the Forest, but no follow-up. Runs a Street Wraith, which is going to dig us a little bit deeper, which is nice. Just going to crack our fetch land here and go for the Thoughtseize. And we see a Hornet Queen, a Primal Command, and a Wistful Selkie. Yeah, Primal Command is going to be quite rough, potentially. Pretty powerful card, and obviously gives the opponent a significant amount of life gain and also can disrupt us. So we just want to take the Selkie here, basically. There's Obviously, Primal Command and Hornet Queen are quite a long way off. Selkie's quite a long way off, to be quite honest, but I think we definitely want to get rid of that card. It also makes his Nykthos significantly less impressive. Going to play Bauble here. Probably should have just cracked the Bauble on my turn, just see what our opponent was drawing, and then we have sort of perfect information on his current hand. Usually crack at end of turn of my opponent's turn, but you should be tactical with your use of the Bauble. I don't always use it to the best of its abilities, but seeing the top card of your library can be very helpful, or seeing the top card of your opponent's library can be very useful in terms of making future decisions. So always use it as best you can. So we see that our opponent's about to draw it into a Utopia Sprawl next turn, which is fine. And nothing to be too concerned about, although it does push them towards the Primal Command. Going to draw 2 cards here with the Bauble activation. Unfortunately, Fatal Push and Blood Crypt, which aren't the best. We're going to cycle a Street Wraith, which thankfully draws us into a Tarmogoyf. So we do have a threat here that we can run out, which is helpful. And that's going to be a 4/5. Put in place Utopia Sprawl on their turn, which we saw coming. Going to be able to attack for 4. I decided not to Inquisition on the basis that I don't think my opponent's got anything to Inquisition for, and I don't want to waste it. And it's not adding anything to the Tarmogoyf at the moment. I'm going to place Primal Command, gaining 7 life and searching for a creature card, which certainly isn't very good for us. I think they search up Eternal Witness, which is a fine choice under the circumstances. They can get the Eternal Witness next turn and then get the Wistful Selkie back into hand. And play Bauble. Attack for 4 with Tarmogoyf. I accidentally clicked through my turn here. We should have Inquisitioned and taken the Eternal Witness, which is one of the reasons we were saving Inquisition. So yeah, we kind of messed up there. But fortunately, we're not too badly punished for this, because our opponent doesn't actually have enough mana to cast the Selkie straight off the bat. And obviously we've got an excess of Fatal Pushes currently in hand. But yeah, we definitely should have got rid of the Eternal Witness, and then we wouldn't have had to waste this Fatal Push. So we use our Bauble. We see our opponent's going to draw into Primeval Titans next turn, which is going to be a problem, most likely, depending on how much mana our opponent has. I mean, currently Nykthos isn't really producing much mana for him, and he does seem short on lands, so that's good at least, but our opponent certainly has quite a bit in terms of the big threats coming our way, so we definitely want to wrap this game up as soon as we can. Cycle the Street Wraith. Probably should have cracked the fetch land first, just to thin our deck a little bit. Inquisition, I imagine he's not going to find anything. Oh no, we have got some cards here, so oh yeah, because our opponent's got 4 cards at this point. So we see a Selkie, a Genesis Wave, and a Fervor, which is kind of interesting, giving all his creatures haste. Seems like kind of a wasteful use of a slot, given that it's not a great card. But there you go. So yeah, Genesis Wave isn't going to be very big. I think we just don't want to take the Selkie to avoid him making too much mana off of Nykthos. Yeah, I mean, I suppose he could Genesis Wave for 2 next turn, or 3 if he draws a land, but we're not too concerned about that. Much more concerned about this potential Hornet Queen that's coming our way. So, attack for 5. I mean, we draw a Kozilek's Return, so that answers Hornet Queen, but it doesn't answer the Primeval Titan, which could be a much bigger problem for us. So opponent Genesis Waves 2, doesn't hit anything. Assuming he's just trying to find a land, to be quite honest. We draw Stubborn Denial, so we must have kept at least one of those in the deck. Opponent punt down to 8. Opponent plays Bop. And further, just going to counter that here to prevent our opponent having the land. Also, Further's probably not going to be doing... Stubborn Denar's probably not doing a whole lot for us now. It also means we get an enchantment into the graveyard, which makes Tarmogoyf that bit bigger, which is useful for us. Going to fail push the Bop here. So we just really need to sort of survive through the next turn, because we've got a 2-turn clock. Our Tarmogoyf is now a 6/7, which is very useful because it means it can attack through a Primeval Titan. So I'm going to be able to hit for 6 here. And our opponent, I presume, just doesn't find the next land, because he can only produce 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, he's on 5 mana. He's just stuck on 5 mana, and apparently our opponent doesn't get there. So yeah, that was kind of tight. Primeval Time, certainly, if it dropped a bit sooner, would have made our life very difficult. But turns out we managed to pull through, and we pick up the win here. So yeah, kind of an interesting matchup. Basically, really based around speed, to be quite honest. If they can hit their top end threats quickly, then we will have a big problem. Hornet Queen obviously being an issue, Primeval Titan also a substantial issue. We can make creatures that are bigger than those creatures for sure, but they are going to be problematic. So it's really just sort of about speed and attacking rapidly. I think their deck sort of pairs well for us attacking rapidly, though, because given that they have cards that like enchantments and things and unusual card types that we can put into the graveyard and grow our Tarmogoyf, etc. So that works out nicely. I think generally this match is fine. Obviously, we've got hand disruption to slow them down. We've got plenty of removal for their creatures, and we've got a fast enough clock when their deck is kind of slow in terms of the creatures and cards it plays. So as long as we can outrace them, we're doing okay, I think.